Throughout a player's career, they have to make many important decisions, both on the field and off. And perhaps one of the most important that they need to decide is if they're going to continue playing with the team that they're on. Sometimes you may have better bets chasing Super Bowl rings elsewhere, or maybe they're just after a better paycheck. No matter what, every player has to decide. But some are really going to have to think about that sooner rather than later. With 2022 NFL free agency right around the corner, it's an ideal time to look at which top players are better off staying where they are and which ones should jump ship for a new opportunity elsewhere. Here are 5 NFL free agents who would be wise to re-sign with their current clubs and 5 who should look for a new home. Stay, Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ suffered a brutal ACL injury during Super Bowl 56 that will likely cost him most of his 2022 season as well. That means 2 things. For starters, it likely means OBJ could be had at a discounted rate this offseason. You'd have to assume teams won't be looking to hand him a lucrative long-term contract while he's still in the midst of his recovery from yet another serious knee injury. At the same time, it also means that Beckham would probably be best off taking a short-term prove-it deal so that perhaps he can reset his value for 2023 or even 2024 free agency. And if you're gonna take a prove-it deal, doesn't it make sense to stick with the last team that you had success with? Beckham flourished once he escaped Cleveland for the greener pastures in Los Angeles. Him and Matt Stafford developed chemistry immediately. There is no reason to think that he can't pick up right where they left off. Whenever Beckham does return next season, not only can he help the Rams in their quest to run it back, but he can also set himself up for one final monster contract the following offseason. It's a win-win. Leave. Allen Robinson. There may not be a more obvious leave candidate in the entire NFL than A-Rob. The Chicago Bears wide receiver experienced the worst season of his career in the Windy City in 2021. Part of that had to do with the Bears' messy quarterback situation, but Robinson also began to take a backseat to the emerging Darnell Mooney. The fact of the matter is, Allen Robinson has never had the luxury of playing with a decent quarterback. He went from Blake Bortles during his first 4 years in Jacksonville to a mixture of Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, and Justin Fields throughout his last 4 years in Chicago. A-Rob has a second opportunity to pick his next quarterback in free agency. The last time he was faced with this choice, he made the wrong decision. Let's hope he learned from past mistakes and finds an elite quarterback to throw him the ball in 2022. Stay, Tyrann Mathieu. The 3-year, $42 million deal the Kansas City Chiefs handed the All-Pro safety Tyrann Mathieu in 2019 will go down as one of the greatest moves in franchise history. Mathieu became the cornerstone in Steve Spagnuolo's defense, leading the Chiefs to a Super Bowl 54 championship, another big game appearance in 2020, and the 2021 AFC Championship game. Mathieu did it all, excelling as a cover man, takeaway specialist, and pass rusher. Safeties who can do it all like him are hard to find, and if the Chiefs want to maximize their championship window in the Patrick Mahomes era, keeping a stud like Mathieu is a must. Mathieu is in a great situation with the Chiefs. KC's defense will regress big time if he departs in free agency. This is a partnership that needs to continue as Kansas City aims to become the NFL's new dynasty. Leave. Brandon Scherff. To be honest, any Pro Bowler who played for the Washington Commanders under Dan Snyder's ownership would have been wise to leave. In the NFL world, Washington is the place where players' primes go to waste. It took Trent Williams a long time to get himself out of DC, and now look at what he's doing in San Francisco. His former Washington teammate, Brandon Scherff, should also leave without thinking twice. The 5-time Pro Bowler could probably choose his next location, depending on how much money he wants. Top contenders like the Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, and Cincinnati Bengals have glaring needs at the guard positions. Maybe a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers or New England Patriots swoop in and make a play for him. The bottom line is that Scherff will get paid handsomely wherever he goes. And after spending so many years on a miserable Washington team, he finally has the chance to chase a ring. Scherff isn't getting any younger, so it's time to ditch the loyalty thing and find a team that will actually make the most of his all-world talents. Stay, Marcus Williams. The New Orleans Saints placed the franchise tag on their standout safety last year, and Williams rewarded them with another stellar season. Having already locked up Marshawn Lattimore long-term, it's time for the Saints to retain the other core piece of their lockdown secondary. Williams is one of the game's top safeties, and he's only in the midst of his prime. Williams has been a marvelous fit in Dennis Allen's defense. Yes, New Orleans is in a tricky cap situation, but GM Mickey Loomis has always found a way to make the dollars work. New Orleans has a deep foundation on the defensive side of the ball, and they simply cannot afford to lose Williams, especially when you consider how wide open the NFC South is right now. Williams and Lattimore have terrified opposing offenses in their 5 years together. Their styles of play go hand in hand. If you're New Orleans, why would you want to break that up? Having already extended Lattimore, it's time to generously reward Williams with a long-term deal that keeps him in NOLA. Leave Chandler Jones. The Arizona Cardinals refused to pay Chandler Jones a year ago. He's a year older now, and the front office needs to find a way to save precious cap space to extend Kyler Murray long-term, while also fixing the secondary, O-line, and front seven. Simply put, Arizona isn't going to give Jones the monster extension he sought heading into the 2021 season. We highly doubt their minds have changed 1 year later, and this is Jones's last great opportunity to cash in on a monster deal. He's 32 years of age, so he's likely to see his production continue to decline from here on out. The 10.5 sacks he put up in 2021 may be as good as it gets going forward, but it won't stop teams from pursuing the four-time Pro Bowler. Jones going back to New England makes perfect sense. Baltimore, Kansas City, and Buffalo are other Super Bowl contenders who could sign him on a short-term pact. Jones would be fortunate to land a term of more than 4 years, but if somebody is willing to give him $15 million plus per season, he's got to take it. Jones needs to score that one last mega contract before his career ends, and he should have no problem landing one from a bona fide championship contender. Stay Jadeveon Clowney. Hard to believe that the first overall pick of the 2014 NFL Draft, touted as a generational prospect you may recall, has played on 4 teams in as many years. Clowney hasn't really been the franchise-changing superstar that many expected, but he can still be a productive player in the right system. After a down season with the Tennessee Titans in 2020, Clowney joined the Cleveland Browns and proved to be a nice complement to Myles Garrett. Clowney recorded 9 sacks and a pair of forced fumbles, finally giving Garrett some valuable support in the front seven. Cleveland boasted the league's 5th best defense in 2021, and Clowney was a fairly important part of that. The veteran defensive end flopped in Tennessee, and he wasn't much of an impact player during his time in Seattle in 2019. So clearly, the right scheme matters for Clowney, and the Browns seem to have it. With a good chunk of cap space, Cleveland can offer Clowney a multi-year extension, and if that offer is nice enough, Clowney has to take it. No sense taking a short-term deal elsewhere with the risk of flopping and having to reset his market value again. Leave J.C. Jackson. In February, the Patriots superstar told NBC Sports Boston the following: "I guess they feel like they don't need me. I guess I can't be that important to them. I know I am, but they're not showing me." Fair not. Belichick isn't one to pay top dollar to retain his key players. He's done this for over 2 decades, and he even willingly let Tom freaking Brady, of all guys, leave Foxborough. Jackson has established himself as one of the game's top corners, with a ridiculous 25 interceptions over his first 4 seasons. That includes 9 in 2020 and 8 in 2021. Think about that for a second. This is a guy who's going up against the opposition's top receiver more often than not, and he's putting up those type of numbers. So he shouldn't feel the need to take a huge pay cut just to stay. This is his prime opportunity to cash in on the contract of a lifetime. And you have to think at least a dozen teams will have serious interest in him. Jackson has done everything the Patriots could have asked for. There are other Super Bowl contenders who can afford Jackson and pay him what he's worth. Stay Jameis Winston. In the 7 games he started with the Saints, Winston was everything Sean Payton needed him to be. Winston changed up his game and went from the no-risk-it, no-biscuit passer in Tampa Bay to the responsible, cautious game manager in New Orleans. Carried by a top-tier offensive line, running back Alvin Kamara, and a suffocating defense, Winston flourished with 14 touchdowns against just 3 picks. The Saints won 5 of the 7 games he started, but his promising season unfortunately ended when he tore his ACL against the Buccaneers in Week 8. The Saints somehow finished with a winning record despite using 4 different starters all season. In short, a healthy Winston would have likely taken them to the playoffs. Winston had a great situation in New Orleans. Coach Payton loved him, and it's hard to think of a better situation for the 2015 first overall pick. The Saints' strong rushing game and lights-out defense will give Winston the best possible supporting cast compared to other quarterback-needy teams. Not to mention that New Orleans will have a healthy Michael Thomas in 2022. Plus, they could totally add another stud receiver through the draft to accommodate Winston. Yeah, he can go to Pittsburgh or Denver, or even return to Tampa Bay following the retirement of Tom Brady. But if Winston wants to play his best football, and if he wants to be in a situation that allows him to win, then this is his best bet. Then his best bet is to stay in New Orleans. And from the Saints' perspective, who's a better, more affordable option than Winston at this point? Leave. Rob Gronkowski. We don't know if Gronk will return for the 2022 season with Tom Brady no longer around. If he does decide to come back for another year, one thing's for sure. It better not be in Tampa. Sure, Gronk found plenty of success when he came out of retirement to play with the Bucs, but that was largely due to the fact that he had his old buddy TB12 throwing him the ball. With Brady no longer under center for the Bucs, you'd have to think they're about to experience a massive downgrade at the position. Does Gronk really want to be a part of that? If he has another season left in him, his best bet would be to spend it with a team like the Bills or Bengals. Could you imagine the damage he'd do with a quarterback like Josh Allen or Joe Burrow throwing him the ball? But what other star NFL free agents should re-sign with their current teams? And which ones should leave? Join us in the comments section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.